On the 30 News today, a sex worker by choice, renewed interest in remote-controlled racing, and what poets add to the cultural community. Hello, I'm Nick Krepp for The30.ca. This semester, our 30 reporters have attended every scheduled UWSA meeting, and it's apparent that there is an issue with attendance. Meg Roberts reports that once again, the UWSA failed to meet quorum last night.
This past Thursday night will be the 4th out of 5 meetings this semester that the UWSA has not been able to meet quorum. In order to meet quorum, the UWSA needs 13 out of 26 members to attend. President J.D. Tarpe is upset with the commitment level of the board members.
It's disappointing, and you want to get through a lot of things. There are lots of motions that come up with regards to students, with regards to different projects that we're doing, with regards to making student life better on campus. We continue to ask that everybody shows up and book off at least 4 hours. We got during election times and ask students to vote for us and say we'll be there to advocate for you. And it's dishonest if we don't show up.
J.D. Tarpe told the 30 News that a new policy regarding attendance would be introduced at the next UWSA meeting on March 24th. This has been Meg Roberts, the 30 News.
It should come as no surprise to anyone in Windsor-Essex that there is a strong sex trade in the area. While escorts are legal, many of the assumptions about who these escorts are may be incorrect, as 30 reporter Ashna Dayal explains.
The sex industry exists in Windsor, whether through escorts, street workers, or human trafficking. There are many reasons people are in this trade, but if not out of choice, how can victims of trafficking get help? The 30 News took a look at how this industry thrives in Windsor. Finding an escort is as easy as typing Windsor escort into Google. Results come up in seconds. One of the most popular sites is Backpages, where people can advertise themselves, and those looking to purchase services can skim through until they find someone they like. This escort agreed to talk to the 30 News if we protected her identity.
So I moved to Windsor about a year ago, and I had a bunch of trouble finding work that paid enough for me. So I put up an ad online, and I got clients very quickly. So when they messaged me, I just asked them to send their name, a picture of themselves, and where they work, so I know that they're not scamming me. And none of my family or friends back home know that I do this at all. So once we meet for the night, I set the rules, and they're that you can't hit me, and we have to use protection, and we can't do anything other than what I discussed that we do. So I haven't really had anyone break those rules except for once. And once I threatened to call the cops, he settled down quickly after that. So
There's an assumption that all sex workers must be forced into the trade by a pimp or be a victim of human trafficking. This escort says that's not true in her case.
yeah, so no one's forcing me into doing what I do, and I don't think that anyone in this area, any of the girls, are being forced to from what I've seen online, but I don't really talk to them, so I don't know. But yeah, I get to decide my hours, and I can easily make $150, $100 an hour, and I decide my clients.
But many sex workers are forced into prostitution or trapped into addiction. In 2012, Windsor filmmaker Michael Evans made a documentary chronicling the stories of street workers on Droulard Road and Wyandotte.
Yeah, the escorts can get a lot. If you're, one of the ladies that we talked to, she started when she was 18, when it first became legal, and she was making a lot of money. So much money that she thought it was never going to end. And another one of the ladies that we talked to, Katrina McLeod, she was kind of the feature interview in the documentary. We had to go to Toronto to get her. She's an advocate for women trying to get out of the business. She might be somebody good to talk to as well. She used to make so much money. She had hundreds of thousands of dollars in her bank at one point. but that was working as an escort in the back of a massage parlor, you know, over the course of many years. And of course, all that money ended up drying up, right? Because she didn't understand that one day it's going to get cut off and it's not going to be that easy to make. Now, the ground level prostitutes on the corner of Church and Wyandotte Street are usually looking for whatever they can get so they can go buy a rock of crack. So they'll take just about whatever they can get as long as it'll allow them to get more drugs. So they can perform sexual favors for some man for as little as $15. Yeah.
The other side to the business is the side where people are trafficked, which was seen in a 2014 study by the Alliance Against Modern Slavery, where there was an estimated 550 incidents of human trafficking in Ontario alone over a 2-year period. Maureen Thrasher works with Legal Aid Windsor to help victims get out of the sex trade.
So human trafficking is when somebody takes advantage of somebody, they extort them, they exploit them, they threaten them, they coerce them into doing something that they don't want to do or that they normally wouldn't do under duress. Even if consent is received, it's still not really consent because the consent is made, you know, because of a threat to themselves or their family member or whatnot. Oftentimes people are moved and there's an element of travel involved. We know that trafficking can start as early as 11 years old and it can go up until whatever age. And again, I'm not a person that puts things in boxes. I don't like to, nothing fits neatly in trafficking. So it really can look like anybody who's vulnerable and being taken advantage of. And I can say that a trafficker can be anybody from, you know, a person high up in a gang to a guy that's 16 years old and just feels like there's a girl that he can make money off of. It can be another woman. Oftentimes girls will recruit other girls in group homes. When you think about it, you know, sometimes as women we trust other women a little bit more than men. So women do traffic as well. Peers. So I've really seen, you know, anybody from, you know, 16, 15 years old up, men, women. It's more about greed than an actual how does it look.
Windsor Police Constable Andrew Droulard says he's aware it's a problem. In 2015, an investigation into human trafficking named Operation Northern Spotlight resulted in 47 people getting arrested across Ontario and 2 girls under 18 getting helped out of the trade in Windsor alone.
It's a municipal problem, it's a provincial problem, it's a national problem, right? So we do tend to get involved with each other, try to keep information flowing with each other to ensure that we know where these people are getting trafficked to, where they're coming from, and try to come up with operations. Like we had one recently in November and a couple through last year, which were Northern Spotlight, they were titled. And that was when we had over 20 police services in Ontario that teamed up and reached out to victims of human trafficking.
But fortunately, there are ways to get help if in such a situation.
With people at We Fight across the street from Shelley and Maureen, and we'd set up a point where we'd reach out to these people, try to get as much information as we could, reach out to them to give them a way out. And that's basically all it was, like just a conversation to let them know that we are safe, we're here to help you, and all these police services, we're just trying to help you in this situation, and we're trying to point you to these resources here, you know. So that's why we had teamed up with local resources, because it's a community effort, really, right? Like it takes everybody to help these people who have been, you know, manipulated and you know, forced into a situation that they find themselves in that are hard to get out of.
The fact is, the sex industry does exist in Windsor, even if we sometimes forget that. People enter and engage with this trade for various reasons, but if it wasn't a choice to enter, then victims can find help through Legal Assistance Windsor and We Fight. Ashna Dayal with The30.ca.
On any given night, you can hear the many roars of racing engines. Mini racing engines, that is. 30 reporter Roy Kang reports on the ongoing business of RC racing in Windsor.
Daymac is a store in Windsor which has caught the attention of local Windsorites for being the only store heavily dedicated to RCs. They sell, repair, and race their remote-controlled units. These little cars are zipping around Windsor's newest racetrack at Daymac, a store selling kit for remote-control car enthusiasts.
Well, if you have your own car, it's free to use, and pretty much any time. Always call to find out, just in case somebody booked a birthday party, like on a Saturday or a Sunday. So if you bring your own car, it's indoor, you can go race your car. If you don't have a car and you want to rent one, we have rentals by the hour.
On average, 25 people can be found here racing on the weekend. Soon there will be a timer showing car lap speed by the millisecond. Daymac is also starting a competitive league, and a remote control car engineer will be on hand to fix anything that's broken. Surprisingly, there's a lot of high tech that goes into these tiny machines.
Well, mostly with the RCs is, the steering on the RC cars is mostly that goes on those. The drones themselves, you're looking at the ESC speed controllers. Sometimes people don't put them to match the motor size they have, so they're asking for too much from the speed controllers, which I hope to be teaching in the classes that we're going to have here also.
It's a busy place in the winter, but the summer is when there's the most activity from having an outdoor track available. In addition to racing cars, hobbies will be able to fly their drones here inside and out.
Yeah, RC hobby is pretty much keeps people sane. If you have an RC hobby, then you have something to look forward to every day, a group to gather together with, or just do it by yourself sometimes. We allow everybody to come inside our track with a group by themselves, with their own vehicles. They can rent from us. The track is open.
A thriving hobby, it would seem, and fun for these guys mean more than just sitting on the sofa playing video games. Roy Kang, The30.ca.
Windsor has always had an active community, but a new initiative is drawing attention to the varied talent that the city possesses. Taylor Campbell has more.
His Canada was can't and cannot, a parliament of lepers and peons, a politics of nothing doing, because doing nothing means nothing's wrong.
The Poet Laureate of Canada read to a standing room only crowd at Drouillard Road's Atelier Virginien last week. It was one of George Eliot Clark's first public appearances as Parliamentary Poet Laureate. Clark says that events like this are especially important for cities like Windsor. For communities defined by struggle, art is the best response.
And it helps to underline the fact that poetry is not irrelevant. In fact, it's the most relevant. And it's something that people engage with without actually thinking about it most of the times. So what's really good about moments like tonight is that folks begin to think about poetry more directly as opposed to accidentally.
The event, Marty Gervais Presents, was the first of a 4-part series orchestrated by the Poet Laureate of Windsor. The series will publicly showcase the city's poets and musicians.
This is where they take them when they start to show their sin.
I have a very passionate belief that poetry tells stories, and poetry is for everyone. And when I heard that George Eliot Clark was going to be Poet Laureate, I called him and said, you need to come back to Windsor and do this. It's not an elitist genre. It's a genre that touches the soul and touches the heart of everyone.
When it comes to recognizing the value of the arts in Canada, there's still a lot of work to be done at the federal level. Clark hopes to change that during his 3-year term.
I would like, through my term as Poet Laureate, National Poet Laureate, to see various federal institutions, the National Art Gallery, National Art Center, National Ballet of Canada, as I dream big, that they would all take up some project that would be about promoting Canadian poets and Canadian poetry.
When it comes to the economic value of arts, a hard figure is hard to come by. But a report commissioned by the city in 2012 estimates that 2,000 jobs exist related to the arts. That doesn't acknowledge the vibrance that the arts brings to Windsor. Taylor Campbell, The30 News.
The University Players has been working hard to bring a production of Dancing at Lunasa to the Hatch Studio Theatre stage. 30 reporter Jordan Warsaw Collins has more.
Oh, richer than the cherry, oh, sweeter than the berry, oh, nymph more bright than moonshine's night, like kidneys bright and merry. Where on earth did that come from?
The University Players have transformed the Hatch Studio Theatre at the University of Windsor into an Irish cottage for their production of Dancing at Lunasa. The play, written by Irish playwright Brian Friel, is being performed by the student actors this week. Director Mark Bondi says that the play is sad and heartfelt at the same time.
The play takes place in the memory of the narrator. So the narrator is a man by the name of Michael, who's about 34 years of age at the top of the play, and he's telling a story about the summer when he was 7. You know, it's really about family dynamics and family politics, and each of these women have a role within the household, and they're all sort of raising him as a family. You know, they're all sort of rearing young Michael. So it's a very melancholic play, but really touching and warm at the same time. Each of these characters has a unique story and a unique perspective, and the play isn't really about one person more than another. But with 8 actors and 8 characters on stage, the challenge is highlighting each of them so that the audience feels something and a connection for each one of these characters. We have student actors here that are just on the verge of entering the career as professionals. So they bring in with them a hunger and a passion.
The cast and crew are all University of Windsor students who have the opportunity to show their talents in the theatre company's productions. Actor Kathleen Welch says that her favorite part of performing in this play is the sense of family she gained while working with the cast.
Sort of feeling, we have such a great cast feeling and cast and crew, and being on the stage because it's a family on stage, it feels like a real house and a real family, and obviously I know it's not, but I get to interact. I'm on stage so much, and you just, while not speaking, you just feel part of everyone has their own role, and you know you have your part in the home and in the family, so it feels like my home.
This is the University Players' 5th production this season. Their last production of the season will begin on April 1st and is called Double Dealer. I'm Jordan Russell-Collins, The30.ca.
Traditional ways of assessing the game of hockey are quickly changing. With the use of analytics, along with constantly evolving technology, teams are able to see the game like never before. I took a closer look at how local hockey teams are using more advanced statistics. University of Windsor hockey coach Kevin Hamlin believes in analytics and the analysis of data. This past season, Hamlin invested in a stats-based software called StatsTrack. The cloud-based system allows Hamlin and his coaching staff to receive in-depth analytics in real time, giving the Lancers a technological and analytical advantage.
I'm sure that we work smarter than a lot of other programs, and not suggesting we work any harder, but we work smarter. We find ways to work smarter, and this is one of those ways. It's one indicator of how your team is playing, how an individual is playing. There's a lot of other variables and factors that go into how a player plays, but some analytics are pretty telling, and you'd be foolish in this climate with so many people focusing on analytics and certain stats. You'd be a fool not to at least consider it.
There is no doubt that statistics in the game of hockey and the way coaches assess and implement these stats is evolving. Former coach of the Lakeshore Canadians and current hockey, culture, and society instructor at St. Clair College, Rob Service, is preparing a course reflecting this evolution.
And you're constantly, as a coach, trying to, maybe look at new avenues or new ways to, say, motivate your players and your team. And I just started researching and following it, and really got a lot more involved in really what the hockey analytics were. And I decided to incorporate it in our Junior C program in Lakeshore beginning of last year. And really, I was looking at the I-Corsi, as it's called, and really that has to do with all the shots that are, say, thrown at the net during a game. And the second one was actually zone entries that we kept total of it. And I think with players, it gives you the opportunity to talk and say, hey, you know what, your I-Corsi was 7, and you scored a goal, and then the next game, you only had 3 I-Corsi. You got to shoot more, stuff like that. So,
does it work? Neither the Canadians nor the Lancers have had more success than a team like the LaSalle Vipers, who choose to only analyze more basic stats the old way, recorded often by the backup goaltender.
And I basically just record the shots for our team against the other team's net. So if the goalie makes a save, then I just record who shot it, and that's about it. I don't think it makes a huge difference. I mean, to a certain degree, yeah, when you're talking about special teams and stuff like that, but I think at the end of the day, if you're a good team, you're going to be successful, and statistics is just kind of takes a back burner to the talent level of your team. So I think it definitely plays a role, but not as big of a role as you think it would.
It doesn't seem clear yet if there's an advantage to using advanced stats in coaching. But as with everything in life these days, it seems big data is now a part of sports, and more coaches are willing to invest in detailed data and alter their strategies accordingly. That's it for us in the 30 Newsroom. For the 30 News, I'm Nick Krett.